production begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to another broadcast of Community Foundation Spotlight here on PAC 14. I'm Doug Wilson. I'm the President and CEO of the Community Foundation. And with me today as our guest we have the wonderful Jim Finneran. Welcome.
Thanks, Doug.
To the show. It's great to have you
Yeah,
here. You and I have known each
here.
other quite a while now, for at least several years.
Oh, I'd say 5, 6, easy.
At least that
Going
long.
back to old Canada days.
Oh, Canada Day.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. A former football star.
Yeah.
Right? Bulldog or Mad Dog? What is it?
Mad Dog.
Mad Dog. Yes. All right. Good for you.
Only 50 years ago.
Only 50 years ago. I know. I don't like to talk about that. But anyway, Jim. Jim is with us from the Village of Hope. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your background?
Sure.
Kind of tell the folks about who Jim Finneran is and how you became involved with Village of Hope.
Well, going back a long time ago, in the early 70s, I was a reporter and anchorman at WBOC, and that's how I came to be here in the area. And since then, I've done a lot of different things in advertising and public relations, and along the way got involved in nonprofit and fundraising, going all the way back to the YMCA and the Salvation Army in the 70s, and followed through and served on the St. Francis Parish Council and helped with fundraising there. And was really happy to be involved with Coastal Hospice about 10 years ago in the Purdue Kresge campaign.
Right.
And have been on the board at the Village of Hope for almost 2 years now. And had the opportunity to serve as the interim executive director when our director resigned rather suddenly. And we decided to spend a good long time identifying a new one, which we now have done.
Right.
And I've gone back to being a board member.
Not quite.
Well, not quite. I'm still on board. I'm helping out our new executive director, Jasmine Rogers, who had been employed at the Village of Hope right out of school. And we think Jasmine's going to do a great job. I think she's the future of the Village of Hope.
She's a lovely girl.
She really is. And we think we have a bright future there.
Good.
So it's been a very interesting year and a half. Nonprofits, as you well know, are facing some serious challenges ever since the crash, if you want to call it that, of 2008. But
And sequestration.
yeah,
Where the government couldn't get their act together. And now who's suffering? Right?
Yeah, we're very optimistic. We think we've turned the corner and are going to keep moving forward with our mission.
Which is what? Tell me what the Village of Hope is all about. What is the Village of Hope?
All right, the Village of Hope existed with the very famous, very well-known, highly thought of Joseph House.
Right.
And was first known as the Joseph House Village back in the early 90s. It originally started out as a shelter program for homeless men.
For homeless men?
For homeless men.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I was not involved back then, but I understand that it was a program with great intentions, didn't really work out. So there's a building there that we use as a residence, which had been designed for men, so it's a little spare, a little sparse, because homeless men don't take up a lot of room. You know, they need a room and a bathroom and maybe a little kitchen. That's about it. But the program was changed to be a program for women and their children. Now, the Village of Hope is not an emergency shelter.
Okay.
And there are so many of them that do such great work around here. I mean, the churches, I believe, have now started their 2-week stints, bringing people in at night, giving them, I believe they have dinner and they have breakfast, and then they leave and they come back and they're out of the cold. It's a wonderful thing.
Right.
And there's other shelter type facilities too. Halo, Diaconia.
Right.
Life Crisis is a shelter of sorts, a little bit different. It's for battered women, etc. But the Village of Hope provides a 2-year program Basically, we have some pretty tough criteria for people to get in. Drug-free for a year, no alcohol use. Have to have a little money because we do charge minimal apartment fees. But that's more of a life lesson than it is any kind of revenue for the village. But anyway, they come in and we put them on a 2-year plan to get them back on their feet.
Okay.
The object is most of our residents come to us and they're homeless.
Right.
Their educational level is very low. Many do not have a high school diploma. Some do have a history of mental illness. And they're classic homeless people.
With children?
With children.
Yeah.
If they have children under 13, they are accepted. Yeah. So then they agree to this program that we put them on, and the ultimate goal of the program is for them to leave after 2 years and be independent.
Okay.
Job, we hope they get a GED while they're there, at least. Place to live. And the whole deal is they come to us, and 2 years later, if everything works out, there's one less homeless person on the street.
Right. So you provide programming and instruction and all kinds of things to aid and assist them, as well as housing them.
Yes.
Right?
No, well, we have 15 apartments.
Right?
And there are a series of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Once again, like I said, kind of small for women.
Right. I understand.
But we work it out.
Right.
And a little sidebar. We had a new resident come in about 2 months ago with 2 small children.
Yeah.
And Jasmine was showing her apartment, and she started to cry. And Jasmine said, "Well, what's the matter? You know, I just don't you like this?" And she got a hold of herself and she said, "This is the nicest place I've ever lived in my life."
Oh my. Isn't that something?
And I mean, it's stories like this that keep everybody involved with the Village of Hope going.
Right.
But anyway, while they're with us, we do a lot of things which we believe will help them to be able to be independent. We offer psychological counseling in conjunction with Eastern Shore Psychological Services. Jasmine conducts a number of workshops, etc. The most recent one sounds a little funny, but it was on makeup.
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 You look good, you feel good, you feel better about yourself?
Well, more important,
opportunity, jobs?
yeah, more important, you know, when you go out for a job interview, you should look your best.
Right.
And simple things like grooming, makeup, may be something that our residents haven't really been exposed to. I mean, you have to remember, they almost all come to us having been homeless. And one thing I've learned in my brief time there from the psychological counselors is that homeless is as much of a state of mind as it is a physical condition.
Really?
And once we get a roof over their heads, they may not be homeless as the world perceives it, but in their own heads, they still have this homeless attitude.
Right. Wow.
And that's one of the things that we try to eliminate.
Yeah.
Not easy.
I bet not. You know, you talked earlier about how originally it was housing for men.
Yeah.
And I know that the village has undergone some recent changes. Has the mission changed over time a little bit about what the Village of Hope does?
Well, the primary mission, when it was the Joseph House Village,
Yeah.
has really never changed. And the object is to assist disadvantaged people in our area.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
And to focus in on the homeless.
Right.
Okay? So it started out with homeless men, shifted to homeless women, and along the course of the way, there's been a dental clinic at the Village of Hope, which closed long before my involvement there.
Okay.
There was a daycare center which served the neighborhood. That was successful to a point. And the most successful thing, other than the mission of making the homeless be self-sufficient, was the clinic at the Village of Hope.
Right. The medical clinic.
The medical clinic. which opened about 20 years ago, and which also served the disadvantage of the area.
Right.
I would say that the clinic, from a service standpoint, was an absolute smash hit.
It was very well regarded in the community by the medical profession.
Highly regarded.
Right.
And you can number the patients that came and went over the years in the thousands.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
There was really nothing like it in the early 90s when it opened up, and there really wasn't through the 90s. Difference now is the medical world, and you know from your background, has changed dramatically. To make it simple, the Village of Hope was operating a mom and pop clinic. We had 2 nurse practitioners, 2 or 3 employees, and volunteers. Terrific and volunteer doctors from the hospital. It got to the point where we could not compete with the hospital, with other clinics, et cetera, in today's modern business world,
Right.
modern medical business world. Certain things like, I hardly know anything about it, but the word I keep hearing is coding.
Yes.
Is when you're dealing with insurance. You know, how you bill when people come in with insurance, how you bill for each set of services. And some of our board members have pointed out that this has there's quite a science to it.
Oh, there is.
And it's also very labor intensive.
That as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was a kind of labor intensivity, if that's a word, that we really couldn't afford. And we were losing money trying to keep the clinic open.
Right.
And we kept it open, and we kept it open, and finally last summer we came to the conclusion that this is, I'll repeat it again, our mom and pop clinic, no matter how good we are, just can't keep going on and bleeding money like this. We can't compete anymore.
Right. So it was unsustainable.
Yeah, basically it was unsustainable, and tough decision was made to close. And I think we really did a good job of transferring our medical records, establishing a relationship with some of the other clinics in the area, Lower Shore Clinic, TLC, getting our patients over there. All our employees, and this once again says how good the clinic was, all our employees were snapped up like that.
Oh yeah.
Our nurse practitioners. I mean, if they missed 2 days working, I'd be surprised.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that says a lot about the kind of quality service that we were providing.
Right.
But it's closed. It's pretty much come to an end now. It's buildings, that part of the building is vacant. You know, we transfer some medical records every now and then, but the chapter's over. We're sorry it's over, but it had to be done. And now we've come all the way back to the original mission of serving the homeless, and particularly homeless women, their children, and getting them back on their feet to be productive members of society.
Good. Are the Little Sisters of Mary and Joseph, or Joseph and Mary, I don't know which way, are they still involved with the Village of Hope, or what's the relationship there?
Fortunately, yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, they really are. According to our bylaws, 3 members of the Little Sisters of Jesus and Mary are on the board.
Okay.
And we have Sister Marilyn, who I think really should be Sister Saint Marilyn.
Yes, right.
And Sister Connie and Sister Mary Joseph are all on the board. Sister Marilyn is at the Village of Hope every day. She's very involved with the residents, very involved with the upkeep. They are, while the village is independent and non-sectarian, the sisters still are very much involved in it. I think because it was the dream of Sister Mary Elizabeth,
Right.
and they want to stay involved in that dream, and they want to see it keep going forward.
Right.
It's been a tough decision, a number of things that we've had to do because of economics.
Right.
They understand it, and their support is still there. I say 100%, but when it comes to the sisters, particularly Sister Marilyn, it's more like 150%.
I got you. Yeah. You know, things since 2007, 2008, the economy's not been good. And, you know, a lot of people, I was at a chamber event yesterday where we started talking about an economic forecast in the future and that kind of thing. But it must have had an impact on you guys. What's it been like for you?
Well, it had a serious impact, and number one is the clinic.
Right.
That was number one. Number two, kind of a simple thing, we have a lot of space at the Village of Hope.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, we have a lot of empty space. And that space was filled by a drug cessation program.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Doug, I'm not sure if it was a state or, I would doubt if it was a federal thing. It's probably a state program before my time.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I do remember about it is they were paying rent of almost $40,000 a year.
That's a handsome amount.
Yeah, but it was a good deal for them. It was a great location.
Mm-hmm.
And for one reason or another, they moved out. And that was a big hit.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
That was a big hit to the budget. So
Yeah.
that hurt.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, well, donations are down. I don't think that's necessarily the case at the
Mm-hmm.
Village of Hope. We have very involved, very active board members
Mm-hmm.
that not only give of their time, but some of them really give of their treasure. And all of our fundraising efforts are continually very, very well met.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Good.
But a source of that was one source of income that really hurt.
I bet.
And then you know, if you play it right when you're operating something like a clinic, if you can do it right, you can take in more than you put out.
Right.
Coastal Hospice does that.
Yeah.
We couldn't. So those are a couple of combinations that really hurt.
Yeah. We're going to take a break for just a second and welcome our audience who just may have turned in. This is the Community Foundation Spotlight. And my name is Doug Wilson, the President and CEO of the Community Foundation. And with me today we have Jim Mad Dog Finneran from the Village of Hope, who's been talking about the Village of Hope. And he's been their interim executive director for a while.
Right.
And now they have hired a new executive director, and he'll be floating back onto the board, transition period. So welcome to the show, and welcome to Jim. So we'll continue talking about the Village of Hope. You mentioned the Village of Hope's transitional living program. What you know, you talked a little bit about it. Can you give us a little more detail about that and how it works?
Sure.
What's it called? Steps
to success.
Steps to success.
Steps to success.
Right.
Once again, it's a 2-year program.
Right.
And we emphasize that very strongly when somebody new comes in, and we continually emphasize it with our current residents. We have, as I said, we have 15 apartments, and we have 13 full at the moment.
13 full.
Yeah, we have 13 women, and we have, I think we have 14 children.
Wow.
On board.
On board.
Yeah, on board.
Yeah.
Some of the steps to success involve not only the women, but there's also a very well-organized tutoring program for the children after school.
Right.
It's every night, Monday through Thursday, during the school year.
Good.
And it's supported by a staff member from the Board of Education, who is the head tutor, and some great volunteers. Recently, Mitzi Purdue did a great article in the Daily Times about Tony Wall.
Yeah.
Dr. Tony, or he's kind of modest, the kids just call him Mr. Tony.
Yeah.
He's one of our volunteers, and great program for the kids.
Lovely.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because you know the kids were homeless too. You know?
Right.
And remember, I mentioned before homelessness being a state of mind. Just because the kids now have a warm place and a roof over their heads doesn't mean they've gotten out of this
Right.
mentality, the shelter mentality they were in.
Yeah.
So I think that for the kids is really important.
Let me ask you a question. Do they communally eat together? Is there some
No.
kind of... They don't. Okay.
No.
So they live as independently as they can
Right.
in the environment that they're in.
They eat the kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, every apartment has a living room, kitchen, bathroom, and 1 or 2 bedrooms.
Wow.
So it's going to be like it is on the outside. So they're responsible for their shopping and their cooking and cleaning up and stuff like that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and another thing that we offer too is about half of them don't have cars.
Ah. Yeah.
But there are things they need to do to move ahead. And one of those is go to school, get a GED, Chesapeake College.
Right.
So we have a program with, I'm thinking of,
Warwick?
no, the buses.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Tri-County.
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 Right.
And they are given vouchers for the buses. They're given vouchers for taxis that they can use for educational, medical purposes, etc.
Oh, good.
Okay, so that's a big help because, I mean, we tell them, you know, if you don't have a high school diploma, you pretty might as well forget it, you know, or at least a GED.
Right. Exactly. How do you get support from community? How do you support yourself?
Well, fundraising is very big.
Right.
We just completed our annual campaign, which was, very happy to say, was really successful.
Great. Good.
Village of Hope really has a very loyal support group, and I really think a lot of this the credit goes to Sister Mary Elizabeth, who established all this from nothing many years ago.
Right.
And the tradition has kept up by Sister Marilyn and the other nuns.
Yeah.
So fundraising is one thing that we're relying very heavily. United Way, we get a monthly stipend from them.
Great.
Community Foundation, in the area of grants. Community Foundation, just yesterday we used one of your grants to buy furniture for 3 of our apartments.
Right. Good.
Which is tremendous help. And we're applying for another one to replace our ancient water heater.
Yes. Right.
To get a new water heater, which will be a quick recovery. And it sounds like minor things, but our biggest expenses really are utilities.
Oh, yeah.
You know, gas and electric.
Right.
So fundraising, City of Salisbury, we receive an emergency shelter grant from them every year. And Luray Chambers, very helpful with that. Debbie Stam is now really a good friend of ours, helping us with that. So a combination of fundraising, grants,
Right.
community
Gifts.
foundation, gifts. That's what we rely on.
Do you have any fundraising events you want to talk about? Something upcoming or something you just completed?
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay.
Well, we just completed our annual campaign, which I
Right.
mentioned was very successful. And coming up in the very near future is our signature fundraising event, the famous Great Clue Caper.
Correct. Right.
And Jackie Jennings is a board member,
Yes.
and she's also on the executive committee. And you may remember her as Jackie Lanza
Right.
of WBOC fame. She's
Right.
another
Yes.
ex-WBOC people all over the place.
There are.
She's been running this, I believe this is the 5th year now. And it gets bigger every year. And it raises, last year I think it was $52,000, and we're looking for it to be bigger.
Wow.
Because quite simply, I guess I've never done it. I think I'm going to do it this year.
Are you?
It's supposed to be a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I know a lot of people that participate in it.
It's basically an automobile scavenger hunt.
Really? Yeah.
And there's teams that participate, and it's supported by entry fees and also advertising.
Right.
So really successful event. It's one of the things that keeps our name out in front.
Yeah.
And it's one of the great supporters of our, what we do.
Yeah. Do you have a website?
We do.
Village-
Villageofhope.us.
Villageofhope.us. And
No,
I'm there.
pardon me. Villageofhope.
.org?
No, villageofhope.us.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there's anyone out there in our audience that might be very interested in supporting or learning more about the Village of Hope. I'd like to direct them to your website if they can. And more directly, you're on Lake Street, right? They could just pop over.
1001 Lake Street.
They could just drop over and give you a check.
Yeah.
But, you perform such a great service to the community, and there's nothing really like it anywhere.
No, there isn't.
No, so you're kind of unique in that regard. And you live on donations and what you can get from United Way and other entities and organizations in the city and county. But you really need their support. You need the community support.
Well, we do. We've set the website up, and I'll mention it.
Yep.
is that you can make donations right on the website.
Oh, that's what I want to hear.
Yep, right on the website.
Great.
And it's, as I mentioned, villageofhope.us.
Right. Good. Any big plans for the future? You're going to expand or anything that you know of? Or
Nothing that I know of right now. The expansion of the Steps of Success program
Right.
is limited by our apartment space.
Right.
And as I mentioned, we have 15 apartments. We have 13 occupied.
And 14 children.
And 14 children. So we can actually only go one more apartment because one of our apartments is dedicated to what you might call a house mother.
Okay.
Who stays overnight.
Right.
Maybe one night, maybe 2 nights a week. So that's dedicated for that. So we can't expand that way.
Right. And you have a dedicated self-perpetuating board of directors or board of trustees that helps manage the operations, because you only have paid staff? You've only got
2 people.
2 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your executive director and your that charming girl I met.
Doris Beatty.
That's her.
She is the assistant to the executive director.
Right.
And we are going to hire a part-time case manager.
Okay.
This is what Jasmine had been doing.
Right.
And we're just about to get somebody on board.
Good.
And bring them up to speed so Jasmine can concentrate more on the executive director
Operational
responsibilities.
components of running the.
So yeah,
Village of Hope.
there's only 2 employees.
Yeah.
We rely on a highly dedicated board and a lot of volunteers.
Right.
Yep.
Well, you certainly do have a highly dedicated and committed board of directors.
We do.
And
We
which is
absolutely
terrific.
do, yeah.
You know, not only give of their time selflessly, but give of their resources as well.
They really do, and a lot of expertise. We have a lawyer on the board.
Right.
We've got a couple of doctors, which were really valuable when the clinic was open. A couple of accountants, some PR people,
Business people.
CPA, insurance. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. It's great board, great organization.
Yeah. Well, we're about to close off. Do you have one more thing you want to leave with our audience?
Well, I always want to make a pitch. I said before, we rely on donations. We
Right.
rely on gifts. If anybody feels generous,
Yeah.
look us up on the website, and it's right there available to you.
Great.
It's a real privilege to serve this area,
Oh, yeah. Lovely.
and
Well,
I think we do a great job. And got to salute, as always, the sisters. They're such an integral part. They started it. They keep it going, and that's about it.
Jim, it's been great having
Thanks,
you.
Doug.
It's good seeing you
Okay.
again. And on behalf of Jim Finneran and the Village of Hope and myself, Doug Wilson with the Community Foundation, thank you for tuning in and watching us on PAC 14, the Community Foundation Spotlight. And we'll see you again real soon. And I guess I should say, for both of our sakes, we all wish you the best for 2014. Happy New Year,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Would you like to see your community organization or nonprofit group featured on PAC 14? To get started, contact us at 410-677-5014 or visit our website at www.pac14.org. PAC 14 is a great way to connect with your community.